Hey y'all, today we're going to be making some homemade white bread or sandwich bread, whatever you call it. So to start out with, we're going to need our mixing bowl, whatever bowl you're using. Now my bowl was cold, so I just ran some hot water out of the faucet in there just to warm my bowl up a little bit. And then I have it sitting on a towel because my countertops are cold, because y'all, I keep my house cold. My mama always says you could hang meat up in here, and you probably could because I like it cold. But you know, menopause, hello, I get hot. So anyway, we ain't gonna talk about that. So to your bowl, you're gonna add 4 cups of warm water, and it's just warm water out of my faucet. I just turned just the hot water on and got 4 cups of it, okay? Because you need it pretty warm, but you don't want it too hot. So if if your faucet's boiling, you might want to, you need it to be about 100 degrees, okay? If you want to measure it, if you're not sure. So then to your water, you're going to add 2 packets of active dry yeast, not the instant kind, and then just a pinch of sugar. And that sugar is just going to help activate your yeast. Your yeast likes sugar, feeds on it, grows big and strong, right? Okay, so you're going to mix that up good, and then we're going to go ahead and just plop a towel right over the top of that. Y'all like that towel? Look, home is where the cat is. Y'all know I love my cat. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and just let that sit for about 10 minutes. And then it's going to get nice and bubbly, okay? Once that's all nice and activated, we're going to go ahead and put our dough hook on. If you're using a stand mixer, you're going to need your dough hook. If not, you can absolutely do this by hand, y'all. You don't have to have a mixer for this. Do it whatever you have, okay? So to our yeast mixture, we're going to add 1/3 of a cup of oil, and I'm using olive oil, but I'm sure any oil would be okay. And then I'm going to add 1/3 of a cup of honey. And y'all know I like my local honey. If you can get local honey, it's best. It has a lot of good health benefits, a lot of good properties. You know what I'm saying? But if you can't get it, or if you like a different kind, or you don't have whatever you have, honey, just use whatever you got. 1/3 of a cup. Okay. Once we get that in there, we're going to start adding our flour. Now, for this recipe, we're going to need a total of about 10 to 12 cups of flour. And I know that sounds like a lot of flour, and it is. But remember, this recipe makes 3 loaves of bread, okay? And you can freeze them. So you can make 3 loaves. You'll have 1 loaf to eat on for the week, and you can pop the other 2 in the freezer and just pull them out whenever you need them. So to start out with, we're going to add 5 cups of flour. And this is all-purpose flour, y'all. It's nothing special, just regular old all-purpose flour. Start out with 5 cups. Then we're going to make sure you add a tablespoon of salt. I have fine sea salt. That's just what I use at my house. Use whatever kind you have, a tablespoon of salt. And I always put my salt on top of my flour because yeast does not like salt, and I don't want to risk my salt getting my yeast and making it mad, and then my yeast not wanting to work. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to make the yeast mad. So anyway, once you get that all plopped into your bowl, go ahead and just mix that up until it's all good and incorporated. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect because we got a lot more flour to add, okay? But just get it good and mixed in. And you can see right there, good. I still have a little flour on the side. That's okay. So we're going to start adding our flour 1 cup at a time. Okay. And we're going to add this. I ended up using a total of 5 cups to start with and 6 cups that I added in. And then a 1/2 cup I put to the side, for when I was rolling it out. So you're going to mix this until your dough pulls away from the side of the bowl and you can touch it. And it's a little bit tacky, but it doesn't stick to your finger. And I had my middle grandson was in there helping me bake bread this day. So once you got your bread where you need it to be, got your dough where you need it to be, you're going to go ahead and see how easy it just kind of slides right off of the dough hook there. It's ready, okay? And it's still going to be a little bit sticky, so don't worry about that. It'll be okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and roll out this mat that y'all know I am in love with. And I will link this down below for y'all because I love this doggone thing. And anywho, go ahead and flour it pretty good. Like I said, I had set aside about a 1/2 cup of flour to do this with. So I used in total, 5, 6, 11 and a half cups of flour. total from start to finish, okay? And I don't think I said this in the beginning, but you're going to need some butter too, y'all. Just like to rub on your bread, okay? But I'll tell y'all about that when we get to it. I'm just letting y'all know you are going to need it. So you're going to just plop your dough down here, and then you're going to need this. And I needed this, and look, I've got flour down there because you see how it's still kind of sticky under there. Add a little bit, not a whole lot of flour, because you don't want to have too much flour. Just add a little bit at a time as you're kneading it, if you need it. You may not even need it. No pun intended. I said that 50 times. But anyway, you're just going to need that, like I said, for about 8 minutes. Until it's nice and you can just put it right into a little ball, okay? Then get out a big bowl, because this is a lot of dough, y'all. Get out a big bowl, spray it with some cooking spray, and plop your little dough ball right down there in your bowl. Okay? Then you're going to want to spray some cooking spray on top of it. That'll help keep it from drying out, and it'll keep it from sticking to your towel as it rises, because she's going to get big, y'all. Okay, we're going to cover that and let it sit for about 45 minutes, okay? After 45 minutes, and I went and sat mine over on my stove just to get it out of the way, of the counter, because I had like some towels over there too. Y'all know, because I said it's cold in my house. But look, here she is after 45 minutes. Look how big that got, y'all. It's humongous. So what we're going to need to do now is punch this down. We need to get the air out of it. See them bubbles popping? We don't want bubbles. Now, if we were making sourdough bread, we would want bubbles. But we're not. We're making sandwich bread. And you know that sandwich bread doesn't have huge holes in it. You want your bread to, you don't want big holes for everything to fall out of your sandwich. You know what I'm saying? So just go ahead and poke that air out of there. So then I just went ahead and sprinkled a little bit more flour right down on my my little rolling mat there. And we're going to flop this dough out onto our flour. And then we're going to just kind of fool with it just a little bit to try to get, the rest of the air bubbles out of there, if there's any more. And there are, because that's a lot of dough, and it got pretty big, y'all. So it's got some air in there. So you don't need a ton of flour, and I'm just way overdoing it, and you'll see me, I just move the flour out of the way in a minute because I just had too much. But it is going to be a little bit sticky just from all the oil or the cooking spray that we put on it. So it may just be a little bit sticky. So see, I didn't need much flour, so I'm just going to scooch that right on over out of the way because we don't need it, and I'll move it off of there in a minute. But just kind of roll it around, try to pop any air bubbles, and it's real stretchy, but it's very, well, you'll see when I push it out in a minute what I'm talking about. And you can see there are some bubbles right there, but we're going to get those out. So just see, I popped one right there. So what we're going to do is try to get it in sort of a loaf form, and then we're going to cut this into 3 pieces because, like I said, remember, we're making 3 loaves. So I just have my handy dandy little dough scraper there. Or if you have a big old butcher knife, that'll work too. Whatever you have with a sharp edge, that will cut this will be fine. And it's not like it's hard to cut. You just kind of have to poke down through it. So divide it into 3 pieces, and you can clearly see that my pieces were not even. So what you want to do is try to get them as even as you can. And y'all, I'm going to tell you, you'll see when my bread comes out of the oven, and when I put it in the loaf pans for that matter, my bread is not even. I have one loaf that's quite a bit bigger than the other 2, but you know what? It's fine. They all turned out fine. So I wasn't too concerned about it. Okay, so at this point, what we're going to do is set 2 of our little dough balls to the side and start working with the first one. Now, what you're going to need to do, and let's see right there, I sprinkle a little flour. You may need a little bit if it's a little bit sticky. We're going to roll this around, kind of flatten it out into a little triangle shape as best you can to try to pop those air bubbles. We're going to do a few things to try to get air bubbles out of here, but kind of mash it out. You can't hurt it, y'all. You can't hurt it. And then I went ahead and got my loaf pan. Now I've got 3 loaf pans, and they're 9x5 loaf pans. And I sprayed it really, really good with cooking spray. So, like I said, flatten that out. And you see how it kind of pulls back to the middle? Honey, that's some good dough right there. But anyway, so what you're going to do at this point is start rolling it. See how I'm just kind of rolling it, and I'm kind of tightly rolling it. If you was a teenager in the 90s like I was, you know how to tight roll your jeans? We're about to tight roll this bread. Tight roll your bread, y'all. But anywho, really, in all seriousness, roll it up. Now, when you get that seam on the bottom, pinch it together really, really good, and then just kind of roll it around to where the seam is sealed good, and you kind of get that flat top on your bread. Then we're going to slam it 3 times, okay? That's going to pop any remaining big air bubbles that you have in there, okay? Once you get it made, seam side down in your pan. Now, I got all 3 of my pans all put together there. And see how that, especially that far one, is way smaller than the one in the middle. But like I said, it's okay. You're just going to have shorter bread if that happens. Okay, so at this point, we're going to go ahead and we're going to rub some, like, mostly melted butter right over the top of our loaves of bread, okay? Rub that butter right on over the top. Y'all, this is going to make this bread taste good. You know, butter. Butter's the answer to everything if it's not cheese, right? Then we're going to cover that up, let it sit 45 minutes, and then we're going to come back and give her a look. See how big our loaves rose back up, y'all? So now we are ready to bake these. We're going to put these in the oven, 350 for 30 minutes or until they're nice and golden brown, okay? That's all you're going to need, 30 minutes. Actually, I'm lying to y'all. I think I left mine in there a couple more minutes longer than that. Y'all know my oven is a little wonky, but start at 30 minutes, okay? Start at 30 minutes and go from there. And then you'll see. You'll see. Okay, so here is our bread after probably about 32 minutes. I pulled it out. And I was like, should it be browner than this? Is it right? Y'all, this was the first time I made this particular recipe. I've made bread before, like in a bread maker and stuff. And I've made like the Amish bread like years and years ago. But this is the first time I had made this recipe. And I was like, well, my bread kind of cracked on the sides and it had a little crack in the bottom. And I was worried that it, that it wasn't going to be, done correctly on the inside or whatever. You know how you do when you first make something, you have all those doubts. You're like, oh my gosh, I bet I messed it up. And well, that was a lot of time and a lot of ingredients to mess this up. But see how it's cracked there on the side? Let me tell y'all, that does not interfere with the taste of this bread. I promise you that. So if yours does not look perfect like all the pictures look, do not worry about it because I bet it's still going to taste good. So anyway, as soon as you get them out of the oven, take them out of the pans and put them on a cooling rack immediately, okay? Then we're going to take just a stick of butter, and I tried to do the melted butter at first and it just rolled off, so don't do that. Take a stick of butter and just rub it all over, really, really good, all over the tops of your bread. Now, this is going to, of course, give your bread some more of that yummy buttery flavor, but it's also going to keep your bread, the top of your bread, soft. Y'all, when I tell y'all, look, this bread right here was so dang good. I don't know that I'll ever buy another loaf at the store unless I just, for convenience sake, because this bread, it's better than store-bought. And then you don't have all those preservatives and all that, all that extra stuff that goes into everything. You can make this right at home, and it's not that expensive. A little bit of oil, a little bit of honey, and a bag of flour. I mean, that's pretty much all that goes into this, and some yeast. It's really inexpensive, y'all, to make bread at home. So let me cut into it for y'all and show y'all what it looks like. Let me show y'all my masterpiece. Look at that, y'all. Look, it's real bread. Look at that. It's squishy. It's real soft. It's just like sandwich bread, except the main difference is because like we brush that butter and stuff on the top. You know how a lot of times, you want to cut the crust, a lot of people cut the crust off their bread because the crust just don't taste that good. Honey, this stuff does. I ate all the crust and everything, and that bottom crust is not dry and funky. It's a little bit crispy. Y'all, I'm telling y'all, you have got to make this bread. It is so delicious. Make sure you make it. And then I want to hear all about it. I want to hear all about it when y'all make it. Because I'm telling you, I sent a loaf with my son, a loaf with my daughter, and then I had a loaf for myself at home. You got to try it, y'all. Just trust me on this. All right, I'm going to shut up now, and I will put another video over here, and I will catch y'all on the next one. Bye, y'all.